Science!
What's going on, guys? Willie Dills here, making a fresh deck tech. A little different though, because we're going to be doing a fun deck in Wild. And the reason I've been doing this is that I've been playing a lot of the standard ladder. And of course, everyone knows right now on the standard ladder, a lot of mid-range shaman. And that could get a little tiresome after a while. So I've been using Wild as a respite, if you will, a way to escape all of the mid-range shaman and just have some fun. So this is great that we have the multiple formats now, and I'm really happy about that. Let's talk about a really fun deck that I've been playing in Wild a little bit and actually having some success with. And that, of course, is the Wild Majordomo deck. So people who don't know the card I'm talking about, Majordomo Executus, it's not a popular card. You don't see it a lot. One of the funnest cards that Blizzard has ever created. So basically the way Majordomo works, it's a 9/7 with a death rattle that reads, replace your hero with Ragnaros the Fire Lord. That is right, you can turn your hero into Ragnaros. That means your hero power becomes 2 mana, deal 8 damage to a random enemy character. So it can hit face, it can hit minions as well. This is a terrible card because it also gives you 8 health, right? So you go from whatever amount you're at to 8 health. And 8 health is not a lot. In Hearthstone, it's pretty easy to die from that position. However, there is one class, one hero that can take advantage of Majordomo in a way that no others can, and that is, of course, Mage. Because Mage has a card called Ice Block. And with Ice Block up, you cannot die. So you are allowed to then get an extra turn as Ragnaros. And with a couple of other cool tricks that Mage has, you can actually fire off that hero power 10 times in a turn if you get everything lined up just right. So it's really fun to do 10 times 8, 80 damage in a turn. No matter what minions are on the board, you generally kill them all and kill the hero if you can pull this off. So this is a really fun deck. But before I get started, if you want more content like this and you really like this kind of stuff, head on over to patreon.com/WillieDills. Once we get over 750 for a month, I'm going to do one of these every single week, whether it be a fun deck or more competitive standard deck. We're not that far away from that number right now, so please get on in there. And if you also are a patron, you have access to the Dills Hearthstone League, which is a weekly league that we'll be starting season 2 in pretty soon. Also, please hit the subscribe button on YouTube or hit a like on this video if you enjoy this stuff. Anyway, let's get right into the deck. So basically, the deck operates like a freeze mage in a lot of ways. You're stalling the game out and you're looking for your big combo. Now in Freeze Mage, your big combo is a bunch of fireballs, frost bolts, ice lances, ways to do either 15 damage if you've got an Alexstrasza on the opponent, or just 30 damage if you can pull that off with some Thorason ticks. This deck operates very similar, but your finishing combo is not a bunch of burst out of your hand. Your finishing combo is turning yourself into Ragnaros and then hitting the hero power a whole bunch of times in a row. Now, it takes a lot more setup, obviously, but in my opinion, it's so much more satisfying and fun. I have not had so much fun with a deck in a really long time. And yes, I was playing it on lower ranks of Wild, but I still had a pretty good win rate with it. So I think it's actually somewhat viable as far as fun decks are concerned. So the key plays when you're playing this deck, I really think that the key play here is duplicating your Thorason. You see the deck runs 1 copy of Duplicate. And Duplicate, of course, when your minion dies, you get 2 copies of it in your hand. So the setup is to try to either play Duplicate on 3 or get a Duplicate out of a Mad Scientist that you've played in the early game. And then play no minions until you can either coin Thorason out on 5 or play him straight to the board on turn 6. If you can pull this off, you get multiple first you get the Thorason ticks the first time you play him, then you get 2 more Thorason in your hand, and then you can play those whenever you need. Now, the key here is to note that the cards you really want to hit with Thorason are the Koldara Drake and Maiden of the Lake. So Koldara Drake is a 6-mana 6/6 that allows you to use your hero power as many times as you can. So depending on how much mana you have after you play it, you can use your hero power over and over. Maiden of the Lake obviously makes your hero power only cost 1. So the key here is you get your Koldara Drake down to, say, 3, 4, 2, something like that, and Maiden of the Lake, which is a 4 cost, down to, say, 2. And then you're able to string a whole bunch of hero powers together in a single turn once you've turned yourself into Ragnaros. Some important interactions to note. When you become Ragnaros, you lose any armor you have. Now, the only armor gain in this deck is a single copy of Ice Barrier, but it's still important to note that not only whatever health you're at becomes 8, but any armor that you may have had goes away. And you don't lose Ice Block when you turn into Ragnaros, but if they pop your Ice Block, then kill Majordomo, turning you into Ragnaros, you lose the invulnerability effect of the Ice Block. So that is one way, if your opponent understands that interaction, that they can kill you. So be aware of that. Try not to put yourself in a situation where the opponent has enough damage on board or damage potential if you can make that read out of their hand that they can pop the block first, then kill Majordomo, then kill you. So that means it's going to take 7 damage to kill Domo, 8 more damage to kill you. That means they're going to have whatever amount on board to kill the Ice Block first. So it's hard for the opponent to do this, but it can happen. So be aware of that. Let's talk about the mulligan phase. When you're mulliganing for the early game, this is a very controlling deck. You're running all of the AoEs. You're running things like heal bots, polymorphs, obviously the ice blocks, the ice barriers. So all of the stall effects are really important in this deck. But for the early game, what you really want is you want to get your Mad Scientist, because Mad Scientist will get those secrets out for free, and sometimes they'll give you a duplicate in the early game. You also want to keep things like Frostbolt to deal with any early minions that the opponent may play. Doomsayer is really good because you can just throw it out on the board on, say, turn 2 or 3. I try to get as much value as I can out of Doomsayer because this deck doesn't run a whole lot of individual spot removal. It's mostly big AoE removal. So if I'm going to do a duplicate, if I'm going to play a Doomsayer, I don't want to just do it on turn 2 and stop their turn 3 play and kill one minion. I'd rather maybe even wait for turn 3 or try to get off the Doomsayer Frost Nova turn if possible. But it's still one of your best early game keeps. The other cards to keep are like things like Acolyte and Arcane Intellect, because early game is often taken up, if not by removal, by drawing into some of that later game removal. So it's very important that you try to get as quick of a start as you can. Now, against slower decks, you can get a little bit greedier. You can do things like keep Thorason, keep Duplicate. Like if you have Duplicate and Thorason, and you're up against, say, a warrior that you know is playing a control warrior, you can actually keep both of those and start to set that up because you will have time. When you're up against base decks or decks that tend to go wide on the board, things like Zoo, I would say in Wild, Secret Paladin is another deck that works this way. You can definitely keep things like AoE and freeze effects because they are the key components to stalling the game out. So even though like a Blizzard can't be cast until turn 6, it's so important to be able to Blizzard once turn 6 comes that it's possibly right to keep a Blizzard. So keep that in mind. Try to identify what type of deck your opponent is playing and mulligan based on what you think they are. Try to give yourself the best chance just to do that stalling or do the big combo plays if you need. One thing I want to say, and I want to stress this, is remember that this is a fun deck. I'm not doing a deck tech because you're going to go out there and you're going to streak to legend, okay? That being said, I did go 12-5 with the deck, and that was at lower ranks of Wild, but 12-5 with any deck at any rank is still decent. So keep in mind that, it is lower rank and it is Wild, and that doesn't necessarily mean that the deck is just a 12-5 type of deck or that win rate would continue over time. But I think that does prove that the deck can win with some consistency if you pilot it correctly. So I think it's really important to understand what the deck is trying to do, understand how your win condition works, and play accordingly. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys a couple of examples of what the combo actually looks like and what that kind of setup that you're going for looks like. And then I'm going to show you an entire game, and I'll talk through it a little bit. That was one of the craziest games. It didn't look like I ever had a chance to win it. Got all the way down to fatigue and was able to pull it out. So stick around and check those out if you're interested in the deck. Also, if you have any questions, feel free, leave comments below. I'll go through and I'll answer anything you have, any questions or suggestions you have about a better way to build this deck. Anyway, thanks for watching. Stick around. More to come. All right, so here we're playing against a shaman, and this shaman had actually stolen my ice block. So you see he's got a secret up. That's actually my ice block right there. So here you can see that I was able to get some ticks off, but in this case, I wasn't able to quite set things up the way I wanted to because he had stolen my ice block. So here we kind of had to take a little bit of a risk. We did have the Koldara Drake on board, but what we had to do here was actually Frostbolt our own Majordomo so that he would die this turn, turning us into Ragnaros. Now you notice we have only 8 health, but we can play the Maiden of the Lake here, and we have the Koldara Drake in play. And I thought about Frostbolting these minions just to make sure I don't die. But first we'll just fire off the hero power a whole bunch of times, see what we kill. If we can kill all of the minions and break the block, that would be the perfect situation. However, we kind of get stuck here to a point where I only have 2 more shots left, and I want to make sure that at least one of them hits his face, and I want the other one to hit the remaining 0-2 minion. The 6 damage from the Koldara Drake doesn't really do much. So what I did was I killed the 1/1, and then I did the hero power one more time, and so popped the ice block that he had stolen from me. And now here we missed the totem, so we're a little bit nervous that maybe he can, flame tongue totem and find some damage here to do 8 to us. But we were able to clear as much of the board as possible, and then here he Nazoths, which was what his deck was designed to do in the first place. So now we have 10 shots with our Koldara Drake and Maiden of the Lake on board with 7 minions, although 4 of them come back, and one of them maybe steals one of our dudes. Anyway, we got super lucky, hit him in the face, no problem. Moving on to the next game. This time, we were able to actually set this up a little more properly. So this is what you want it to look like. So you notice here I actually already have the duplicate up, and I play the Thaurissan and get an ice block going at the same time. So you see I'm making the Maiden of the Lake cheaper. I'm making the Koldara Drake cheaper. So now the Maiden of the Lake's only 1, Koldara Drake is 3. Domo being 6 doesn't really matter because the turn you play Domo, you're often not doing anything else anyway. So now we've got the opportunity to just go ahead and safely play Domo because we do have the ice block up. So we'll throw that guy out there. And the fact that the mage has a Flame Waker is annoying, but not scary as far as death is concerned because, like I said, we've got the ice block up. So this is when you think about Freeze Mage, the ideal situation is to have ice block up and then Alexstrasza the opponent while you still have the block up. So even if they pop the block, you then burst them down on the very next turn. So them popping your block doesn't actually matter at all. Here he takes an interesting line where he's trying to, I think, essentially maybe keep my Domo up, not allow me to kill my own Domo, which makes reasonable sense if he's identified what I'm doing. So now I have to then figure out a way where I can kill my own Domo or just keep the board safe as long as I can. I have Flame Strikes, obviously, so I still have plenty of ways to deal with the situation. Now, my Domo being at 3 and me having no way to kill it is definitely a problem. But if he can't kill it, the beauty of Majordomo is that it's still representing 9 face damage a turn. So the opponent is generally forced to deal with it. Otherwise, he'll just continue to take 9 damage a turn. So here you can see he does go ahead and kill it, knocking me down to 8, but activating Ragnaros. So now we can go ahead and we can go for the combo here. Although he did play a secret, so we're not 100% sure what that secret is. We have the ice block up, though. So we play the Maiden of the Lake first because if it's copy a dude, we'd rather give him a Maiden of the Lake than a Koldara Drake, obviously. Now we play the Koldara Drake, and we can pop off our hero power a whole bunch of times. So this should be plenty of times to clear the board and start doing some damage to his face. This is such a satisfying combo. I mean, just look at this. Just look at this go off. You just keep putting that every time you shoot that 8 damage off, it refreshes, and you shoot it off again. This is the funnest thing that I've ever done in Hearthstone. This doesn't really matter if we hit the 4-3 or not. We've gotten him down to the point where, we have the Koldara Drake and the Maiden of the Lake on board, and we have the ice block up. This is the perfect situation for the Domo deck. This is what you're going for every single time. Now, at this point, we don't really care if that's an ice block either. We're in such a prime position because we're going to kill his ice block the very next turn. So it doesn't matter at all. I don't know exactly what this guy's deck was, but hey, look, we're at rank 14 in Wild. Anything goes. He's playing double Illuminator. Sure, why not? Heals for 8. We still have infinite fireballs, so let's go ahead and pop those off and see what happens. Boom. 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 Hit that button. Just keep hitting that button. No reason to do anything else. And boom. And one more time. So you push it again here because if it's, say, vaporized, you don't want one of your guys to die. So it is ice block, but doesn't matter. He's in a terrible position. Nothing he can really do about this. He does... I commend this man for not giving up. He's trying to the bitter end. No cards at hand, 2 health, ice block is gone. Thanks, Tech Rome, for the sub. Let's go ahead and keep pushing that button, and we'll finish this bad boy off. He does actually find a way to kill our Koldara Drake, meaning we only get 1 fireball next turn, but 1 fireball is all we need. We'll shoot it off, see if it goes face. If it doesn't, the 2-mana guy, or the 2 damage guy can go face. And, aww. I tried to push it again, but I didn't realize. But anyway, GG's, game over. So there you go. Now let's show you guys a crazy game. So I've put this game into super fast mode here, so we'll try to keep up as best we can. But we're playing against a warrior. Warrior can be tricky because they build up a lot of armor. But what was particularly tricky about this warrior was that he was a dragon tempo warrior. So basically the entire game, he was putting non-stop threats on the board. So we were forced to continuously deal with those threats while trying to set up our combo. So it got very tricky. And a lot of times in the early game, we don't do anything. We're just waiting for him to start applying the pressure and then see if we can react to it. Now, Tempo Warrior in Wild is not something I was used to seeing. So I didn't know what was in the deck. So I didn't really know what to play around at that point, right? So we just kind of did our best kind of playing around whatever we thought was coming. At this point, we had no idea what it was. But Mad Scientist was a great pickup there. And gives us something to do, some sort of a tempo play, and the ability to get our secrets out quickly. He's taking his sweet, sweet time playing a Frothing Berserker. Okay, Frothing Berserker, pretty easy play to make. Here, I think we go ahead and draw, and we figure what we're going to do is we're going to be able to deal with that Frothing Berserker at some point in the future. There's not a lot we can do about it now, but we do have the Frost Nova and the Doomsayer combo. So even though a Frothing Berserker is quite a threat, it's not as big of a threat to a deck like ours that runs so much removal and actually has all of that removal in our hand. So we were able to deal with it fairly decently. At least we think we were going to. King's Defender comes out, hits us in the face. He starts to do some damage. That's totally fine. At this point, we do have some options. We can go ahead and polymorph this Frothing Berserker, but we don't really need to necessarily. However, our other play seems a little wasteful, right? Like we could Frost Nova Doomsayer there. Since we have the second polymorph in hand, we go ahead and decide we'll just turn the Frothing Berserker. This is the first threat that we've seen. We expect him to be some sort of an aggro deck at this point, so we do want to slow down the damage as much as possible. And here we go ahead and set up for our first Frost Nova Doomsayer. This is a great turn to be able to do it because not only is it potentially killing what they have on the board, it's preventing the development that they could potentially do on turn 6, right? Unfortunately, he's running enough stuff to kill it because he does have that weapon up. So Blood to Ichor plus the 3 damage, able to kill it. But Coin, Flame Strike deals with his entire board. No problem. And we actually now still have Blizzard into second Doomsayer. So we feel pretty confident we'll be able to deal with whatever he puts out next. This must be dealt with, so we go ahead and sheep it right away. Now we're making our turns fairly quick, and this guy's thinking a lot of them through. I don't know if I necessarily recommend making your turns as quick as I am, and they seem quicker because this isn't about double speed, but he goes ahead and he denies our draw, which is probably smart on his part. I think he's identified that we have an ice block up, so he's not going to be able to kill us right away. So we don't necessarily need to do the Blizzard Doomsayer combo just yet because we do have these heal bots. So we're going to go ahead and heal up instead, continue to stall out, and maybe try to get even more value out of the Blizzard and the Doomsayer. A lot of times nowadays with the 2-mana execute, you can assume that maybe these tempo style decks are not running executes at all. So I think we're kind of going with that and saying that if he doesn't have the weapon equipped like he did last time, then, you know, with the Blackwing Corruptor, we can probably get this Blizzard Doomsayer combo off. Here we just need to do it because that board is just far too threatening. And we might as well attack in with our 3/3 because if somehow he deals with the Doomsayer here, we now have the ability to ping off that 3/1. And here it actually kind of works. So this is a huge turn for us to be able to do that. Not to mention the fact that now we actually have the duplicate up, or the duplicate in hand, and now we're just waiting for the Thaurissan. But this is a turn where we can kind of stall and reapply pressure back, right? We've been able to flip the board in our favor a little bit. And so now it's basically time to, I think what we end up going with, is Lotheb and Healbot. So now we've got minions on the board that we don't have to rely on more AoE to deal with his board. We can actually just use our minions now and use, say, minions plus hero powers and things like that to actually fight back on the board until we were able to draw into the full combo. We have 2 pieces of the combo. We just need to get them cheaper with Thaurissan at this point. There's another Blizzard. We have Blizzard and our last Flame Strike both in hand at this point. We would like to be able to hold on to those as long as possible, but unfortunately, it kind of dictates that, like with no other removal in hand, we pretty much just have to do something here to deal with these. So we go ahead and we just throw the Flame Strike down. We still have the Blizzard to be able to deal with any future turns. And here comes the Curator. So he kind of refills a little bit, which is definitely a problem. This Frostbolt is really big for us because that was one of the things that we were going to have trouble dealing with, is spot removal. So once our AoE is gone, although we actually just end up using the spot removal right then and there. So never mind. Never mind I said that. Apparently that's not how I was thinking at the time. We're still waiting. Where is our Thaurissan? If we can get that Thaurissan, then we can play that duplicate, get the Thaurissan down, which does a couple things. First, it cheapens all of our cards, right? But besides that, now we're playing Thaurissan's every turn that he's going to feel like he has to deal with. The top deck of Alex Strauss is really big here because we're still at a high life total with an Ice Block up. So putting an Alex Strauss on board, we get him down to 15, so whenever we do get the combo off, we'll be fine. But now we put an 8/8 on board, so rather than him just developing, he's stopped to deal with our board. Unfortunately, he is running an Execute. He may be running only the 1, though I can't quite remember, but he is running an Execute, so he is able to use it on that minion. Kind of a big deal. Fortunately, we are at a high enough life total that these are not 9/9s, they're only 6/6s. So we do have the second Ice Block now, but we are in a rough spot where we just don't have any way to continue to deal with things. So at this point, we just have to play a Kaldara Drake. He's probably now going, wait a minute, what the hell is this? I thought I was playing a Freeze Mage. Nope. Here's one advantage to this deck over, say, Freeze Mage. We can actually beat Warrior because it doesn't matter how much armor you have when I can throw out infinite 8 damage fireballs, right? One of the problems that you have with Freeze Mage against Warrior is sometimes they can build up enough armor that you'll never be able to kill them, right? So in this situation, we're actually able to kill no matter how much health he gets because our damage is infinite. So we are in a tough spot here. We have to just use the Frostbolt as a way to just slow down the damage here. And I believe I do just play this duplicate, thinking I might just need to duplicate whatever comes out. Maybe a Kaldara Drake will have to be duplicated. We're getting low on cards as well. I believe, what do we have left? We have an Ice Barrier. We have another Mad Scientist. We have our Thaurissan and our Domo. There's the Thaurissan, and we actually have the duplicate up. So this is huge. Now here, I should have done when I had the Kaldara Drake out, and I'll point this out real quick. It was a mistake. I pinged face twice. What I should have done is just pinged the 6/6 twice, which would not only do, it would do a couple things. It would set us up so that Frostbolt plus ping would actually kill that, but it would also force him to think about maybe just trading his 6 attack minion into our 6/6 rather than using the 4/4. So here we've got a really tough spot now because he does have damage to break our Ice Block. So we just throw down another Thaurissan. We figure our win condition at this point is to get our combo super, super cheap. And if we could keep up this 5/5, I mean, he's going to break our block at this point, right? That's just a given. There's no way around that. So what we're trying to do is set ourselves up in a situation where we can actually get off all of the cards in one turn that we need to then get the one big multiple fireball turn. And you can see here he's just trying to think about how best to break this Ice Block and potentially deal with the minion on board. Because he doesn't want to leave a Thaurissan up. If he can't break the Ice Block, he doesn't want to also have the Thaurissan up. So he goes with that. That's fine. He breaks the block. So we are in a little bit of trouble. So now Ice Barrier could gain us the life we might need. I believe, do we have one more Frost Nova in there too? I think that might be what's in there. It's hard to see. But yeah, he's basically now got us in super dire straits. This looks like a game that is going to be almost impossible to win. So what we're going to do is we're going to go with the Domo and play the Ice Block. Now, what I mentioned before was that there is an interaction here where if he can break the block, then kill the Domo, then do 8 damage, we actually die. But this is the only line of play right here where we could potentially set up a lethal turn. We do have 4 mana Kildare Drake, 2 mana Maiden of the Lake, meaning we can blast off 4 8 damage fireballs, which could potentially kill him. So the plan at this point is to have that set up to kill him. I think his plan here is break the block, kill the Domo, leave us as an 8/8. There you go. So break the block. Now he'll kill the Domo, leaving us as an 8/8. And then he can do... I think he... No, okay, he did hit it. So then he did the 5 more damage. Okay, so there's the Frost Nova that we were talking about. So we can actually now potentially slow this damage down. What we can do on this turn, because we don't have a guaranteed lethal, he is at 21. So we would need 4 times 8. We would need 32. Yeah, so we need... Oh, no, we only need 3 to hit, actually. But we get 4. So we need 3 out of the 4 to hit. If that doesn't happen, we lose, right? So I think the plan here is to shoot off 1 and then freeze the damage, play this, get our Maiden of the Lake set up, which gives us potential for 6 of them next turn if he can't kill the Maiden. So if the Maiden stays up, we can kill 6. Now we get the 50-50. So thank God we played the Maiden, by the way. If we had not played the Maiden, we were screwed. So here we go. Now we get this. We only get 3, but 1, 2, 3, boom, got him. All right, so we are going to take fatigue damage next turn, but we're not dead to something like a Fiery War Axe here because we do have the Ice Barrier up. So basically what we need him to have is no direct damage that's not through some sort of physical form of damage. And he doesn't, it looks like. He plays the Army of Stormwind. And now basically we have 5 of these plus the 6/6. So here you see we actually kill a 2/3 to give ourselves guarantee that at least 3 of these hit the face. Because we need 3 of these times. Yeah, 3 times 8, 24 damage. Boom. We've got them no matter what. Doesn't matter which one this hits. And we win the game. What a game it was, too. I hope some of that made sense. I talked through all those turns really, really fast. But damn, that was the most satisfying game I played in a really long time. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.